That's a clown question, bro.
I'm a Japanese!
So I'm gonna kick some dirt.
He gets on base.
Just a bit outside.
I'm not the type of player that's going to be Johnny Hustle.
If you don't want me to watch the ball, you can go get it out of the ocean.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball. Kind of whenever, although it's kind of a staple now. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays. We've been pretty consistent with that.
We have.
So it's not really kind of whenever anymore.
I can't wait for us to not be ready for the Wednesday show now.
Yeah.
The Wednesday recorded show that uploads on Thursday.
Yeah. When we don't really have much preparation, we just need to come up with like one struggling player, one good player.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah, that'll be fun. More fun for us. So, yeah, over to my actual right, is Daniel Curran, the voice you just heard. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing good. There's 30 days till opening day. Spring training games have started. I'm already over it. I'm gonna be honest. There's reason to and to not pay attention to spring training games. I think it's just for identifying potential breakout players. Like if an already established player has a tough spring training, I don't think it's fair to be like, oh, hot take, this is the regression of Charlie Blackmon here.
Yeah,
he's only hitting 228. There we go.
Yeah, it is and especially when you watch a player have a good performance, it's so hard not to be like, well, look out for this guy.
Yeah.
Because like spring training, I can discount a bad performance, but when it's a good performance, I really want to jump up on whatever bandwagon.
And I think it is actually fair to do that. Like I don't think you're outlandish if you're like, oh, so and so from the Kansas City Royals, look out for him. He's got a 2.25 ERA in 16 innings pitched.
Yeah, it's hard not to do that, but it's somewhat inappropriate to do that. But yeah, if a guy's struggling, if like an established guy is struggling.
Yeah, or even a new guy. Like I remember Shohei Ohtani's first spring training. He was hitting like a $150 with like a 9 ERA. Everyone was like, oh, it was all a sham. Like we hyped up this guy the whole offseason. He was the next Babe Ruth. It's like, guys, just shut up.
Yeah, and he was like 23 at the time, too.
Yeah. This was his first time facing Major League competition. He didn't even face them in the minors.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was, Yu Darvish coming up at like 26 or whatever age he was when he came to Major League Baseball. This guy was like still like what a rookie would be.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. But yeah, spring training, nothing really crazy about it. I mean, like I pay a little bit of attention when like the starts get to be a little longer. Like when a guy's throwing 4 or 5 innings, but hey,
it's like people really grasp at straws, which I get. You're supposed to be as analytical as possible, and I respect it. But it is in early July. We're not saying like, oh, this guy's cutter was looking a little better today. Like this guy was elevating his fastball a little more than he usually does. Like we're usually not saying that in like August unless it's a guy that's like, a rookie or something like that. Like we're not looking at like Justin Verlander today and being like, he elevated his fastball a lot today. He wasn't doing that back in 2006. So I'm really interested to see what that looks like now.
It's like, watch out, Chaz Rowe's slider, I think, is only moving 12.9 inches instead of 13.3. I mean,
did that surgery really get to him?
Yikes! Yeah, I think we're witnessing the disintegration of Chaz Rowe.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a lot of news to get to, so we decided to tackle 2 divisions.
Actually, there's one more thing I would like to say.
Yes, please.
Chris, you and I always like mocked the people last year who were like, "Oh, 2020, how 2020 is this?" Like when the Nationals Yankees game got rained out.
That's where it started.
I would just like to say if news comes out that like the state of Florida is allowing like 20% capacity at Rays and Marlins games, if you're one of those people that's saying, "So it's just like normal capacity," you're a horrible person.
Yeah.
You're not funny.
Yeah.
I'm not going to laugh at that joke the 97th time that I hear it. And it's such an easy joke.
Yeah.
Like, it's not difficult to come up with that one.
Yeah, I've heard my dad say that joke about 6 times already.
Yeah, no. Like, I would just like to address that.
Yeah, it is bad because also those jokes were made at, when there were no fans in the stands too.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's already unoriginal.
Like in March, people were like, oh, the Rays are going to have an advantage this year because they're not going to be playing in front of fans, just like they always have.
Yeah. I mean, like, that was sort of a factor, but I only, like, when I was considering the Rays as a contender.
That was like the 7th most important thing
Yeah.
that you brought up in that discussion.
Yeah, I was like, well, they don't have to go, against the road crowds, and like
Yeah,
their home crowd is, it's
Yeah, especially if they're playing the Yankees all the time, like that is where the crowd is a factor more than anywhere else.
yeah, because they were just at a disadvantage because their home crowds weren't as effective as the other team's home crowds.
Exactly.
So it would make sense.
Okay, so in conclusion, if you're going to those jokes take zero creativity.
Yeah.
I don't even if it was in March, it still takes zero creativity. So if you're one of those people, I just want you to know you're not funny and you're not creative at all.
Yeah, I was glad you said that because I've been growing sick of that as well.
Yeah.
My parents were actually at Hammond Stadium for Twins Red Sox yesterday.
Oh wow.
And this would be Sunday. And my dad showed a picture and he said, pretty normal capacity for a Twins spring training game. So of course it's there.
That's a back-to-back division winner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Come on
just
now.
not true, but I don't know. I mean, spring training games aren't that well attended, but still, I mean, let's try to dig deeper here.
No.
But anyway, yeah, that's all the ongoing baseball stuff happening
Yes.
right now.
There's not much.
Not much. Yeah, this is honestly like off-season talk. This is where it's probably the most dead because no one's really signing. The only thing you can bank on
Jackie
is
Bradley Jr. is still out there. Jake Odorizzi is still out there, which is very weird. Like, I really don't want to have another Craig Kimbrell, Dallas Keuchel situation, but it really feels like that's where this is leading to.
Yeah, but
Because then they're going to sign in June.
well, neither of them got qualifying offers, did
That's
they?
a great point. Yeah, you're right.
The
Odorizzi probably won't have the draft pick attached to him.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think
Bradley maybe, but I don't
I
think so.
forget if Bradley got the qualifying offer because that, if he was offered $19 million, basically, I feel like he probably would have taken that.
I don't think he had it offered to him.
Yeah, so, if they were two bigger guys, it would be a big problem. But I don't know. In the coming weeks, it might happen, but who knows really?
Exactly.
And yeah, like the only news you can really bank on at this point is extensions, and there were no extensions of the past week.
Actually, I will say, Francisco Lindor, the Mets just announced that they will honor his I don't know how to say this, his request to not have an extension talk after opening day. So if Francisco Lindor doesn't sign an extension with the Mets before opening day, he will become a free agent, which I understand.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't want to do that.
Yeah, especially a guy at this point, he's gone through the 5 years of control. He's gone through 3 arbitration years now.
He's gone through, his own GM telling his fan base to enjoy him.
Yeah.
Like he has a special case of going through a lot of player and front office discrepancy.
Yeah, it would be nice
on a public level.
Yeah, I honestly could see him becoming a free agent and still signing with the Mets.
Yeah.
But just dipping his toe in the water, seeing what's out there. I can totally understand that. But yeah, that's some news, and I guess Hunter Dozier signed a 4-year, $25 million extension.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a good move for the Royals. They're a team that I'll get into this later, but they actually are a very intriguing team to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I am very curious to see what they will end up doing.
Yeah, because they're pretty good at getting guys pretty early. Like they got
they're good at sorry to interrupt, but they're good at keeping guys around. Like you look at the 2015 team, none of those guys were particularly in their younger years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got Whit Merrifield for a somewhat cheap deal. They got they're keeping Hunter Dozier around.
I think the next step is Jorge Soler.
Yeah,
keep that guy around.
And then because they have a pretty good assortment of position players, pitching wise, you have Brady Singer coming up. or who's already had a decent rookie year. But yeah, you need guys who are able to pitch. But yeah, they have a decent assortment of position players. Bobby Witt Jr. will probably be coming up in the next couple of years.
Mondesi as well.
But yeah, I mean, we'll get into that plenty as we are previewing both the AL West and the AL Central today. We're starting with the AL West, going with the AL Central second. But yeah, anything more on the goings-on of baseball today?
Not particularly, no.
So we'll get into our AL West preview team by team, starting off with last year's cellar dwellers of not only the American League West, but the American League in general. They're coming off a 22-38 season, and they lost Lance Lynn. They lost also Shin-Soo Choo, Elvis Andrus, and a great catcher, Jeff Mathis. And they added Dane Dunning, Chris Davis, K.H.R.I.S. Davis, and David Dahl. They added him as well. What player would you highlight from the Rangers?
You mentioned they lost a great catcher in Jeff Mathis.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if his replacement, Sam Huff, will be able to make up for that loss. Sam Huff is the number one prospect in that system, and in just 10 games last year, he slashed .355, .394, .742 with an 1136 OPS. He hit 3 home runs and had 4 RBIs. It's a very small sample size, but this is not I don't think this team has a very positive outlook going into the season, but Sam Huff, I think, is a guy that can be a bright spot and really establish himself as a part of the hopeful future of the Texas Rangers. Chris Young came in as the GM this offseason. I think he actually did a pretty nice job of, taking some small steps towards the beginning of this rebuild, essentially. Yeah. Sam Huff is a guy who I feel like could become sort of a staple to the team going forward, and I think he can establish that this year.
Yeah, a guy I'm sort of highlighting. It's hard to pick a guy and go really analytical with because it's kind of empty currently. They're going through a real rebuilding process. I'm going with a guy that could be a part of the rebuild, and the guy who they acquired in the Lance Lynn trade, Dane Dunning. Heading into his age 26 season, last year in his age 25 season, had a 3.97 ERA, 3.99 FIP, and 113 ERA plus in 34 innings. So, that's a guy who can develop into a solid number 2, number 1 pitcher. He was able to strike out more than one batter per inning last year, so you have that. He seems to be pretty good, and a decent guy to have currently probably at the top of the rotation. Not someone you would want to have at the top of the rotation.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think he starts on opening day.
Yeah,
but I could see him at the top of the rotation.
He will probably have the best season out of.
That's valid.
Out of everyone in Texas. So now we get into the questions about the Rangers.
I guess I'll go first again. Who has a better chance of breaking out this season between Nick Solak and Anderson Tejada? They are both going into their age 23 season or younger. They made their debuts, I believe, last year. Then Nick Solak may have debuted in 2018. But you know what? I think he did. I think Solak was traded for Pete Fairbanks. But regardless, which one of them two do you think has a better chance of breaking out?
What positions do they play?
Nick Solak is I think they're both middle infielders.
Well, I've heard of Nick Solak, so I'm going to go with Nick Solak.
Anderson Tejada had a pretty good start to last season. He cooled down a little bit, but they had around like a 90-something OPS plus, both of them.
Yeah, I'll go with Nick Solak. I mean, I don't know. It's the Rangers.
Yeah.
My question is, I guess, very negative. Will the Rangers repeat as the worst team in the American League this year?
Well, they'd be competing with the Orioles, and the Tigers, and maybe the Royals.
Maybe the Royals.
I don't think anyone in their division.
Not really.
Yeah, I'll say that.
Yep.
I think I'll say that.
I would probably agree with that.
Yeah.
They traded their best player currently.
They have one valuable trade asset left, and he's probably going to be gone by July.
Right. Yeah, they're waiting for him to go on a hot streak and then probably.
They're waiting for him to go slash 209 with an 838 OPS.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, have at the trade deadline he'll probably have 29 home runs, 27 singles.
Yep.
Yeah, and 180 strikeouts. It'll be great. Shout out to Joey Gallo. So now we get into the Los Angeles Angels, formerly the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Formerly the California Angels, formerly the Anaheim Angels.
Yeah. I think they won the World Series as the Anaheim Angels.
They did.
Yeah, and they are coming off a 26-34 season. They lost Andrelton Simmons and Julio Teheran.
Teheran was not a factor for them last season. Get out of here with that.
Well,
he had a 10 ERA.
Not a factor for them last year, but historically he's been a pretty good pitcher.
Historically, sure, but I mean,
Yeah.
let's not act like we're supposed to factor in this team as someone who needs to, compensate for losing Julio Teheran.
Yeah, I guess that is a good point, but he probably still would have been nice to have. I feel like he'll be better this year, but they added Raisel Iglesias, Jose Iglesias, Alex Cobb, and Jose Quintana, who, I don't know, he might produce. So what player do you have to talk about with the Angels?
This is another team. This is the second straight team that has a new GM this year. I really like the moves that Perry Manassian made. I know that starting pitching is still the number one priority, and they didn't get an ace type of pitcher, which is obviously not what they wanted. They're going to need to extend Dylan Bundy, hopefully.
Yeah.
But the guy that I'm going to be looking at is a relief pitcher who went very under the radar last season. That is Mike Mayers.
Yeah.
Many people remember him for having the worst major league debut of all time, but he had interesting reverse splits last season as a right-handed pitcher. Left-handed hitters went 6 for 60 against him.
Wow.
Obviously, that is a 100 batting average against, and his OBP against was 143. That led the majors. And he also overall had a 2.10 ERA. Mike Mayers is a guy that I think is certainly a guy to watch, especially when he faces left-handers, because they just flailed against him virtually all of last year, except for I think Edwin Rios hit a home run against him. That was it.
Yeah. I noticed Mayers, had spectacular numbers last year. I think very good strikeout numbers as well. Yeah, he was fantastic. One of the guys I am focusing on is one of the Iglesiases that was acquired in the offseason. Talking about Jose Iglesias.
Yep.
He had a good 39-game span, I would call it. Not really a season.
He had a good month and a half.
Last year. With the bat, he's known for his defense. But with the bat, in 2020, he finished in the 90th percentile in expected WOBA. And by the way, expected WOBA is the best parallel I can use in terms of expected stats with OPS. So it's pretty much the whole package. So in terms of his expected stats with the whole package, 90th percentile.
And just for the record, expected stats are very much forecasting tools. I don't use that as I think Jose Iglesias is better than X because his X WOBA is better than X. It's this is a guy that could produce more on the same level because of a few batted balls that went a different way.
Yeah, and I'm talking
especially if it's savant stats, because that is you can't really control the batted balls you have. That's not really something you can work on or teach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm using expected WOBA because I think Iglesias actually had better stats than his actual expected stats were. Meaning that someone would say, oh, he probably got lucky last year in his 39-game span, even though expected wise he was still in the 90th percentile, and
that's valid,
in the 100th percentile of expected batting average as well. So had I don't think he qualified, but he was in the 100th percentile for expected batting average. His actual batting average was 373, and his expected was 358. So it's right on par. So he had an extremely good.
And obviously, like a 373 is not sustainable through 162.
Yeah, and
But I mean, I think that could translate to like a 317, 320.
yeah, and his expected batting average of 358 is also not sustainable through 162. But like a guy who he'll probably at his best have average offense, and then when you add in his defense in 2019, finished tied for 16th and outs above average among all fielders. So he's one of those guys where you kind of get the whole package. He's not necessarily a great batter, but he's a decent batter and a great fielder. So, a guy that can kind of just sneak up on you in terms of his abilities. So now we get into questions for the Angels.
I couldn't go the Angels segment without asking about one of the media's favorite people. Will Shohei Ohtani have a higher ERA plus or OPS plus?
ERA plus or OPS?
Slash weighted runs created plus.
That's a good question. Well, hypothetically, he could throw one shutout inning and get injured again, except I'm going to say OPS plus because, that's consistent with what he's done.
It's a safer bet.
Yeah, it's a safer bet, although I do root for him doing well in both because that would just be pretty cool to see as a baseball fan. My question, so Andrew Heaney struck out 70 batters last year and Dylan Bundy struck out 72. Who will have the most in 2021?
I think Heaney is more up and coming. He's younger.
Mm-hmm.
He's a lefty. And I feel like he's been on the cusp of breakout for the last couple of seasons. Bundy, I still think Bundy is going to have a very valuable season for the Angels, but I don't think he's going to be able to top 2020 where we was getting Cy Young votes. So I'm going to say Andrew Heaney for that question.
There we go.
By the way, also shout out to Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon.
Oh, yeah.
They're good.
I want to talk about Anthony Rendon for a second because I was looking on Instagram and MLB put out this thing where it was like the best ranked
players by position, and everyone was complaining. Like there were a lot of people complaining that Rendon wasn't the best third baseman.
No, was the third best.
Who they put?
They put Rendon at third base.
Yeah,
and people were wondering people were saying like Arenado.
Oh no!
My God. If you want to know how good Anthony Rendon is, I looked it up. There is one player who has more F4 than him since 2019. That player is Mike Trout. So he's second in F4 since the beginning of 2019. Not among third basemen, but
2019 wasn't even some breakout season. Like he was great in 2018 and 2017 too.
Yeah, and he leads among all third basemen in F4 since 2016 as well. Nico Fasella, guest of the program, talking to me about fantasy baseball.
He just texted me and said, $20.
All right, I'm gonna I'll get to you later. Sorry, Nico. He'll be a guest on episode 100 if you're wondering.
He's been a guest on episode 51.
Yeah, episode 51 and episode 100. If only
we did that one earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get to you later. All right. Sorry. All right. So that was shout out to Nico. Yeah, I've never done fantasy baseball before, as shocking as that may be.
Interesting. I've won, I think, 3 championships.
That's very nice. I'm probably not going to do that well, or I don't know. I don't know how well I'll do.
You have to take a much different approach than what you would.
Yeah, my problem is
analytics.
My problem.
Home run, runs scored and RBI matter.
Yeah.
There's no ex-WOBA category.
Yeah, my problem is I'm gonna draft guys.
That's what I always do.
I'm gonna draft guys who don't strike out a lot. I'll have Ryu and Hendricks as my two pitchers getting 5 strikeouts a game.
Yeah, my dad always says I would draft the best team in 3 years.
Yeah.
The team that I draft this year is gonna win the fantasy baseball championship in 2023 for sure.
Right.
I'll draft Andrew Vaughn in the 17th round.
Yeah, just seeing what happens.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the Anthony Rendon. He's leads all third basemen in FWAR since 2016. He's been the second best player in terms of FWAR since the beginning of 2019. So it's crazy that he signed a $245 million deal and he's still this underrated.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's pretty
He's
nuts.
a top 5 player in baseball. I would argue.
Yeah, I would say could be number 4.
Yeah.
Could very well be number 4. But yeah, I thought, after he signed the big deal, he would not be considered the most underrated player in baseball anymore. There's still a case to be made that he might be the most underrated player in baseball still.
He really could be.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, And Arenado used to be considered underrated. Now it might be going the other direction.
It's 100% in the other direction.
I mean, yeah, he gets.
I mean, we'll be able to see for sure this year now that he's out of Coors Field.
Yeah, I mean, it's Instagram commenters too. They couldn't stop referencing
Instagram. We all know that Instagram commenters would make the best GMs.
Yeah, because they recognize that Arenado's home runs and RBI were not inflated, being in the ballpark he was in.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were referencing home runs and RBI, which I could not have. I could not be having that. But anyway, that was my. I had to get that off my chest because I was getting triggered at the Instagram comments of the MLB Instagram page. But anyway, the Seattle Mariners. They're coming off
the Rotaries.
The Rotaries, the Pilots. They're coming off a 27-33 season. Did not really lose anyone notable, and they added James Paxton. So, what player are you looking at in terms of the Seattle Mariners?
You mentioned a lefty starting pitcher that they added. They have a lot of lefty starting pitchers, but
Right.
this guy has already been very good for them, and I think could be even better with James Paxton back to give him more advice, and that is Marco Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Marco Gonzalez
This is a back-to-back guy. I think you had him as your guy to highlight last year.
I probably did.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember that. Yeah, that sounds about right. And I probably talked about his walks per 9 as well.
Below 1 per 9.
Yeah, which is unheard of. He is the best pitcher in the league with walk prevention. He led the American League in walks per 9 with 0.90. The next best was 1.21.
Yeah.
And he had a 3.10 ERA last year. I'm gonna check if I.
He walked 7 batters last year.
I'm going to check to see if I highlighted him last year because it sounds about right.
Imagine telling someone at this point last year a guy was going to walk 7 guys in a qualifying season. That would be insane.
Oh no, I did Tom Murphy.
Oh yeah. Oh, there was a.
Yeah, that one flopped in my face.
I think you asked a question about Marco Gonzalez.
That sounds about right.
My bad.
Over or under 8 walks.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I'll take the over on that.
He'll run into some tough calls.
Yeah. you know, he's a younger guy. He's not going to get the same amount of calls as like Jacob deGrom would.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a guy to watch. Yeah, he's one of those guys, low amount of strikeouts, but also low amount of walks.
He's like the left-handed Fergie Jenkins.
Yeah. He's sort of goes in the Ryu category. Ryu Hendricks sort of type guy. Yeah. Can keep him on the radar.
I mean, that's your type of guy.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that guy. I might have to tune into some of his starts. A guy I'm looking at is a guy who plays all over the field, Dylan Moore.
Yeah.
So he has played 151 career games. He has played 15 plus such games at third base, shortstop, left field, and right field. So he's a guy you can really put anywhere if you have an open spot. Dylan Moore.
Wasn't Dylan Moore the guy that threw a ground ball to home when literally nobody was home?
He might be.
Hold on.
But I will tell you, in 2020, he hit 255 with an 855 OPS, 139 OPS plus, and 138
that was him.
Weighted runs created plus in 159 plate appearances, and he was in the 74th percentile in expected WOBA.
Hang on.
Along with that, great on the bases. Dylan Moore, fantastic on the bases. He finished second in the AL in stolen bases in 2020 with 12, and he had a 77% extra base taken percentage. The league average for extra base taken is 43%. He was at 77. So that's, if a guy hits a single and you're on first and you go to third, that's an extra base taken. So he was able to run around the bases very well. So yeah, let's watch this video. Maybe I'll edit it in. So, yeah, there was no one at home plate. I have no idea why. Oh yeah,
The catcher was covering first.
Catcher went to first because I guess he forgot there was a guy on third.
To be fair, Dylan Moore made a perfect throw.
Yeah,
It hit right on home plate, and they would have had the runner too.
That's true. That's pretty.
It's
great.
It's not Dylan Moore's fault when you
No,
really
it's
look
not.
at it, but it's still funny.
You need a guy there. When there's a guy on third, you need a guy at home.
Yeah.
So yeah, on to our Mariners questions.
This team has 2 top 5 prospects in the league. Which one of them, being Jared Kelenic and Julio Rodriguez, will have the better rookie campaign in 2021? Assuming they both get time this year, which I think they will.
I think Rodriguez's ETA is like 2022 though.
I still think I mean, the Mariners.
I'll just say Kelenic because I think.
Listen, the Mariners have a very bad look right now with
Yeah.
how they handle their minor league players. So if there's a reason to compensate for Julio Rodriguez and give him some time, now's the time.
Yeah, I think Kelenic's just the safe pick. Even if Rodriguez does get called up, I feel like Kelenic will get called up earlier.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of rate statistics, like I'm not sure, but I think Kelenic will have the better overall year because he's probably going to be Mather said it mid-April. Can't wait to see him. So he could end up playing like 130 games for the Mariners. My question, Marco Gonzalez. So yeah, now my question is about Mr. Marco Gonzalez, the ace of the Mariners staff. He threw 203 innings pitched in 2019, and he was on a 188 inning pace in 2020. Will he get back to the 200 inning mark in 2021?
I think he will.
Yeah, I mean,
because
it's a hard thing to do now, but if there's a guy,
I mean, walk prevention and strikeout, not high strikeout numbers.
low
Usually,
pitch count.
Exactly, low pitch counts. He's getting 1 pitch outs, 2 pitch outs on ground balls or fly balls. That means more innings for him on lower pitch counts. That means better chance of 200 innings pitched.
Yeah, that's why Maddox was able to throw like 270 innings in a season in the 90s when it wasn't,
Yep.
innings weren't that high. Even though they were a little higher, they weren't that high. But yeah, a little Marco Gonzalez love to see it. So now on to the Astros. They are coming off a 29-31 season, although they were one win away from winning the pennant.
That's so weird to think about.
It's pretty, yeah. I mean, how 2020? But they lost George Springer and Josh Reddick, and they will also not have Justin Verlander this season, as well as sort of last season. He had 1 start.
He had 1 inning pitched.
No,
he had no. Never mind. That was Kluber.
Kluber had 1 inning pitch. I think Verlander had like 6.
7.
Yeah.
You were there.
Yeah, and the Astros added Pedro Baez. And what player are we highlighting?
Chris, there are 5 players in the history of Major League Baseball with a 1050 plus OPS and at least 100 plate appearances. They are Babe Ruth, Ted Williams, Lou Gehrig, Barry Bonds, and Yordan Alvarez.
All right.
Yordan Alvarez is my player to watch for that specific reason. He's going to be returning to the lineup this year. You'd mentioned the Astros didn't really add a lot this offseason, kind of just Pedro Baez. Their number 1 acquisition, or their number 1 add from last season is going to come from within the organization.
Right.
Yordan Alvarez wasn't really there last season. He was hurt. He put up a monster offensive season in 2019, and when he was there in 2020, he was still hitting very well. I think he had a 150-something OPS plus. That alone is going to compensate on the offensive side of losing George Springer. Obviously, defense, he's not going to be able to do the same thing, but this guy he could probably be widely recognized as the number 1 DH in the game at the end of this year. I would not be surprised if that's the case.
Yeah, that's very possible, the other DHs are kind of getting
Cruz,
old.
JD Martinez.
And
Nelson Cruz is 40.
Ozuna is an outfielder as of now. which could change.
Should change.
After this year. But my player to watch is a guy who we sort of highlighted in the awards recap, Christian Javier. So he finished third in the 2020 Rookie of the Year vote. He put up a 3.48 ERA, 129 ERA plus, and a 2.94 expected ERA in 54 and a third innings pitched. His expected WOBA against and his expected ERA were in the 90th percentile. And Javier's pop-up rate was over double the percentage of the MLB average. So he got a lot of weak contact up in the air. And Javier, and this likely has to do with his fastball spin rate being in the 68th percentile, despite its velocity being only in the 39th percentile. So, a lot of revolutions behind the ball. It's staying up in the air a lot more. It's very deceptive, so guys are getting under it. And against his slider, his fastball was good, but his slider, hitters slugged .075 against his slider. So definitely a weapon that Javier had to use last year. And in 9 1/3 playoff innings, he allowed 3 runs and struck out 13 batters. So Javier is a guy you can probably rely on having a good year last year, had good results, had good peripherals, and, will be, they won't have Verlander this year, but, Javier, Valdez, Greinke, and there might be another guy in there that's,
It's our guy.
Oh, yeah, Jose Urquidy in there are, decent guys that can make up for that.
So now I get into my question. I think you kind of already answered it, but who will be this team's Cy Young Award winner?
Yeah, the team Cy Young Award winner? I'm not...
Feels like I just set you up.
Yeah, you did set me up, but, there are other good pitchers. But I'll stick with Javier.
Yeah.
I'll say Christian Javier. I pretty much had the same question. Who will lead the Astros in pitcher B war?
Might as well. So, we got Greinke, we got Valdez, we got Javier. I'm going to say Framber Valdez.
Framber Valdez.
Yeah.
He had a very good postseason.
He had a great so did Javier, but Valdez, I think the thing with Javier is they might just, throw him around as a starter, sometimes as a reliever, and that's kind of probably going to take away from some pitcher B war. Valdez, I think, will stay there from the jump. He's a good lefty. He gets you outs. Kind of similar boat to Marco Gonzalez. His strikeout numbers weren't mind blowing, but they were kind of average. I think Framber Valdez will be able to lead the team in pitcher B war.
Yeah, they're both really good.
You probably could have said
young pitchers.
war.
Yeah, it's because I don't know. I just wanted to specify 1 year because B war and F war they differentiate a lot because of what they value. So the B war relies mostly on ERA plus.
Yeah.
F war relies mostly on
Strikeouts and
FIP and maybe
peripherals.
Yeah, a lot of peripherals. So, but both have their benefits. But anyway, on to the Oakland Athletics. They are coming off. They're the AL West champions of 2020. They're coming off a 36-24 season, and they got eliminated in the ALDS by the Houston Astros. They lost their closer Liam Hendricks, their shortstop Marcus Semien, one of their outfielders Robbie Grossman, one of their relievers Joaquim Soria, and they lost Chris Davis of the K variety, and they added Trevor Rosenthal, Mitch Moreland, and Elvis Andrus. So, on to the players to watch.
I'm going to be looking at a reliever who I think is going to step up in the absence of Liam Hendricks. Whether or not they actually put Trevor Rosenthal at closer, I think that my eyes are going to be on J.B. Wendelken. He had roughly the same ERA plus as Liam Hendricks. He had a 1.8 ERA, and he had just about the same innings pitched.
Yeah.
So outside of strikeouts and walks, which he had 4 walks per 9, so that's definitely something he needs to work on a little bit. Virtually everything on his Baseball Savant page was in at least the 75th percentile last year. And he went very far under the radar because the A's just had a lot of very good relievers that performed last year. J.B. Wendelken was kind of lost in the sauce there. And with Hendricks out, I think that he's a guy that's going to take a step up and lead that bullpen to even more greatness in 2021.
Yeah, and you mentioned all the great relievers in the Athletics bullpen. One of them last year was Jake Diekman.
Yeah, he had like 1 earned run against or something like that. Right?
Yeah, he allowed 1 earned run in 21 1/3 innings pitched. Also, his expected stats were way up there as well. His expected WOBA against and his expected ERA were in the 95th percentile. Somehow, some way, he increased his ground ball percentage from 48.0% to 62.5%. And he had a line drive percentage less than half of the major league average. So, they're not making contact a lot, but when they are, they're not really, hitting hard line drives either. He had over 13 strikeouts per 9. And, when they're making contact, it's not that great anyway. And he allowed 2 runs in 4 2/3 innings pitched in the playoffs, so it kind of carried over. And also a guy that I'm not, focusing on, but I feel like should be mentioned, Sean Murphy. He had a great rookie catcher campaign last year. He's a guy to look out for. I think I looked it up. Among catchers with 140 plate appearances, I think he was second in the AL in weighted runs created plus among catchers. So he's a very good offensive catcher to look out for on the A's. And now we get to questions.
Yeah. The absence of which player will hurt the team more? Liam Hendricks or Marcus Semien?
That's a good question because, Semien was extremely impactful.
Even in a down year.
Definitely in 2019. But yeah, it's hard to measure that because...
if you're watching the A's next year, out of those 2 players, who do you think you'll be looking at and being like, "Oh, I wish I had that guy still more"?
Yeah, because I remember when the A's, when Blake Trinan was struggling after that amazing 2018, immediately Hendricks was just right in there. They might be able to do that with another closer,
and they have 3 different options for that. It could be Trevino. It could be Rosenthal, it could be Diekman, it could be Wendelken, it could be 4 different options.
Yeah, there's a ton of guys that can slot in there. Not saying they'll be as good as Hendricks, but...
Probably not.
I don't think Elvis Andrus is going to be as good as Semien would be, especially in a full season. So, yeah, I guess I'll say Marcus Semien's absence will be felt the most.
That's fair. I probably would have said the same thing.
Yeah, even though, Hendricks is better for his position... A's can do a lot more with their relievers. So, yeah. So, that's the...
you need to ask me my question.
Oh, right. That's true. Who will lead the Athletics in saves?
I'm going to stick to my guns and say J.B. Wendelken.
J.B. Wendelken.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, he was kind of... I feel like he was the setup man last year. Diekman was more used probably for lefties, if I had to imagine.
Yeah.
So yeah, Wendelken's probably more versatile.
I think the other guy that has the best chance is Rosenthal.
That's right. Yeah, Rosenthal in there because he already has that closer experience too.
Exactly.
Even if it was a long time ago, he does have that experience. So yeah, that was the American League West. Now on to the Great American League Central, where we'll start at the bottom again with the Detroit Tigers. They're coming off a 23-35 season.
By the way, they were 1 game out of the playoffs at one point in early September.
Yeah, they were fighting for the 8th seed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was them and the Orioles and
the Blue Jays.
and the Blue Jays and eventually probably the Yankees.
I think the Tigers were out by the time the Yankees were down there.
Yeah, but they were competitive until like the last 15 games. They lost C.J. Crone and Ivan Nova, which aren't huge losses.
I mean, C.J. Crone left mid-season.
Yeah, they did. So I guess they already lost him before the offseason. And they added Robbie Grossman, Wilson Ramos, Renato Nunez, Nomar Mazzara, and Julio Teheran. So some crossover going on. So what are we looking at with the Tigers?
They added a bunch of people. I don't know if any of these people can have long-term success on the team, but one guy that I'm going to be looking at is Robbie Grossman.
Yeah.
He had himself quite the slugfest in 2020, unlike anything he had ever seen before. His ISO, his isolated power, went from a 107 in 2019 to 241 in 2020. That is a pretty big difference, and it actually he had the highest year-to-year change in ISO in the American League last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
That's right.
Like when I was looking at the A's roster, I was like, oh, Robbie Grossman had a good year, and then I clicked on his page, and it's like, oh, he's on the Tigers now.
Yep.
Like that's a guy who, his presence might be missed from the A's as well. But yeah, had a very good year last year. A guy I'm looking at, a shortstop by the name of Willie Castro.
Yeah. He got Rookie of the Year votes last year.
He did, yeah. In 2020, in his age 23 season in 36 games, he hit 349 with a 150 OPS plus and 150 weighted runs created plus. His expected batting average as well was very good in the 93rd percentile, and his expected WOBA was in the 74th percentile. And along with that, his sprint speed was in the 84th percentile, so a very fast gentleman as well. And although he did not steal a base for the Tigers in 2020, he stole 15-plus bases in all 5 of his full seasons in the minors when he was in the minors. So Willie Castro, a guy to look for, a guy that's going to be running around the bases with some maturity. Once he matures, he'll probably develop into a good base stealer because of his speed. And like a good spark plug, I would imagine.
Yeah, so my question, the Tigers obviously, I mentioned a lot of these guys I didn't really see them having long-term success on the team, but one guy who we're expecting long-term success from is Casey Mize.
Yeah.
So my question, over or under 100 ERA plus for Casey Mize?
For Casey Mize, what might be preventing that is he doesn't
the league.
The league, and also he doesn't have the best defense behind him as well, which might affect him. But I mean,
if we're talking errors, that doesn't go into his ERA.
But
But I get it though.
Some guys are gonna reach a ball that other guys won't be. But yeah, I'll still say above 100 for Casey Mize this year. I think he takes a step up. He'll have a full season, be able to figure some kinks out. He's
especially if the ball. I know Rob Manfred talked about deadening the baseball this year, which is very suspicious considering he denied the fact that the ball was juiced for so long.
Yeah.
So, but if the game continues to be as offense heavy as it's been, it's not going to be very difficult for him to have 100 ERA plus. It's basically just like have a 4.26 ERA and you're good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But if it deadens again, then it is going to be a little more challenging for him.
Yeah, I think, I don't think he'll have a spectacular season, but yeah, above 100, I think it could happen. My question is not based on a young member of the team. This is really just for legacy. So in 2019, Miguel Cabrera got 139 hits and 12 home runs. So keep those numbers in mind because he needs 134 hits to get to 3,000 hits and 13 home runs to get to 500 home runs. So in 2021, will he get both milestones, one or neither?
I think he gets one.
One.
And it's the home runs.
The home runs?
Yeah.
That seems more believable. Yeah. 134 hits might be hard for him to get to.
13 home runs, even in a big ballpark and a potentially deadened baseball, I think he can pop out 13.
Yeah.
That's assuming he stays healthy for the whole year, though, and I don't think that's a guarantee.
Yeah, because also with some of those guys, once they're closing in on those milestones, they're just uppercutting on the ball, just trying to lift everything out of the ballpark. So yeah, that seems pretty believable. But yeah,
That's probably going to be the last of the major milestones for him. Those two.
yeah. I mean,
That's kind of the stage of his career that he's in. We're just number watching on the count stats.
yeah. I mean, he's not going to be getting any of the single season marks
No.
anytime soon. But yeah,
He's that part of his career is over. He's got the Triple Crown, which was his 5th best offensive season.
yeah, yeah. It was under 1,000 OPS.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
2013 was significantly better.
It was. It is true.
It wasn't even a competition. Chris
Yeah.
Davis had to ruin it by hitting 53 home runs out of nowhere.
Right. CHRIS Davis.
Yeah. Not to be confused with Kairos Davis that hit 48 home runs.
Yeah.
No, it's a different guy.
And contributed. It wasn't the only thing, but he topped JD Martinez in home runs.
Yeah, he robbed JD Martinez. I mean, he wouldn't have won it anyway,
Yeah.
but he was standing in his way.
Yeah, exactly. So now, on to the Kansas City Royals, who we prefaced a little bit before we got into this. So they are coming off a 26-34 season. They added Andrew Benintendi, Mike Minor, Carlos Santana, and Hanser Alberto. They didn't really lose anybody notable either. So, what are we looking at in
Okay.
terms of players?
I got 2 players
There we go.
that I'm looking for on this team. Shout out to Justin Havens, the producer for Starting 9. I wanted to use this exact statistic, but he tweeted it out yesterday, 2 days ago, if you're listening to this the day we dropped this pod. Talking about Adalberto Mondesi. I don't know if you saw this tweet, but he tweeted the stat. It was the exact stat I wanted to use for this segment, but I was like, oh, I guess I got to credit him now because I can't just seem like I copied him.
Yeah.
So, Adalberto Mondesi had a 14 weighted runs created plus last season up until up until September 3rd. That was the worst among qualifiers. And after that date, from September 4th on, he was tied for the 3rd highest weighted runs created plus in the majors with 202. The only people above him were Freddie Freeman and Jose Ramirez.
Wow.
Yeah, he had such a weird year.
That's pretty wild. And yeah,
And okay, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
My second player is a relief pitcher that I think is flying way under the radar. Is one of the better relief pitchers in the game. That is Scott Barlow. Scott Barlow had one particular bad outing last year where he gave up 3 earned runs in a third of an inning.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a 4.20 ERA on the season. That's the weed number.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you take that one bad outing out, and I know it's cheap to be like if you take out all the outings where he did bad, he was actually really good.
Yeah.
But it's 1/3 of an an inning.
Yeah,
Right? It's
exactly.
In the grand scheme of things, I know it's one
like
out.
4 batters.
One outing is one outing, but it's 1/3 of an inning. If you take out that one single bad inning, he had a 3.39 ERA last season, and that's not a fluke because over the last 2 seasons, he is a 3.42 FIP with 11.75 strikeouts per 9 innings.
There we go.
So Scott Barlow is someone who is flying onto my radar while he flies under everyone else's, and I'm expecting him to have a breakout year in 2021.
Yeah, in terms of Royals, I didn't go too in depth. I'm just looking at a guy who's probably gonna improve this year. Had a good rookie campaign last year. Brady Singer, he led among rookies in strikeouts last year, and he finished 8th in the Rookie of the Year vote. And in his age 23 season, which was 2020, he put up a 4.06 ERA, 4.08 FIP, 113 ERA plus, and a 3.98 expected ERA. So, not too analytical, but a guy to watch because he was a pretty somewhat highly touted prospect.
He was one of the best draft prospects. Like people were talking about him as like a potential 1-1, and he ended up falling.
Yeah. I mean,
out of Florida.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a guy to look for. Like he's probably going to be a very good pitcher, and he's only 24, so only getting better. I mean, can't go too analytical there, but
Yep.
he will probably be improving. So on to questions.
Yeah, I just like to say the Royals are a very, very intriguing team to me. I think that this team could surprise a lot of people in 2021. And I'm not saying they're going to win the division. I'm not saying they're going to go to the playoffs, but they could max out at like 75 to 80 wins. I really do think they could do so.
Yeah, I mean, it's not implausible. 26 out of 60 times 162. I mean, yeah, they were on pace for 70 last year, and they made some improvements.
Yeah. So speaking of those improvements, which of these offseason acquisitions will have a better impact on the team in 2021? Carlos Santana or Andrew Benintendi?
That's a good question. I mean, both have had their shine. Andrew Benintendi is definitely younger.
Much
and
younger.
Has been.
Carlos Santana had one of my favorite slash lines last year. 199, 349, 350.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where Kaufman ranks in terms of like pitcher's park or hitters park.
It's definitely more of a pitcher's park than a hitter's park.
Yeah, and I feel like Santana relies more on power.
Walks and power.
Walks and power. Andrew Benintendi is able to, be more of a higher average guy when he's at his best. So I'll just say Andrew Benintendi. Also, he's got a lot to prove this year.
Yeah.
After getting traded for not very much, being a guy that came up really high and hasn't really reached expectations, he might be able to reach expectations in 2021. My question is about one of your players to watch, Adalberto Mondesi.
Yeah.
He had a league-leading 24 stolen bases last season, which was a 65 stolen base pace.
Huh.
Will he have over or under 54.5 stolen bases in 2021?
I'll slam the over on that.
All right.
If I thought you were going to say 60 or 65.
Yeah.
I will take that over.
You'll take...
Yeah.
Yeah, 55 or more.
Especially if Carlos Santana and Andrew Benintendi are going to be behind him in the lineup this time. Like, that is guys that are much bigger threats to drive him in. And if he's in scoring position, that's going to be a bigger incentive for him to get in scoring position. So I think he's going to be running more, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen. I think I looked it up. We haven't seen more than 50 in a season since
Jonathan VR.
Since like 20. It was 2018 or 2017. Which, like, if it's 2018, that's not saying much.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've only seen one full season since then. But yeah, Adalberto Mondesi, watch out for him. Very fast individual. So now on to the playoff teams. It's weird because Baseball Reference had the White Sox ranked ahead of the Indians, but I went based on seeding, so I'm going with the White Sox.
That's what
first.
I did too. But which is weird because we didn't do that last week with the Cardinals and the...
Yeah.
Who was it? The Reds? Yeah.
Reds, yeah. They're coming off a 35-25 season. They lost Alex Colomé and James McCann, and they added Lance Lynn and Liam Hendricks. So what player are you watching with the White Sox in
Chris,
2021?
You know which White Sox player I'm watching.
Well, yeah.
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 Yeah. You didn't think I'd pick him, did you?
I don't know.
I picked him.
There we go.
I picked him. You picked him last year. He was a meme for us all of last season, and I am going to go with the resurgence of Dylan Cease.
Yes.
In 2020, he produced the only season in baseball history with a 1.10 ERA plus, a 6.2 plus FIP in at least 35 innings pitched throughout the season. That is Dylan Cease.
How about that?
There we go. You need the how about that button pulled out for Dylan Cease.
Yeah, he
fantastic.
obviously has a significant walk issue. If he can get it fixed, that's going to add a lot of depth to a rotation that already looks very promising. I think Giolito is a Cy Young candidate. Dallas Keuchel is in his ground balls. I mean, he's always been a ground ball pitcher, but he's in his Yankees CC Sabathia portion of his career. Lance Lynn just came over, so if Dylan Cease can fix the walks, you're looking at a lot of depth in that rotation.
Yeah, it was weird last year too because his strikeouts went significantly down. Like we need him to be able to get that up. But and thinking about Cease and a couple of other guys, I came up with a new term that we might be able to use for pitchers that have much worse expected stats.
Much worse peripherals than what their ERA suggests.
And for hitters that have much better peripherals than than what's actually going on the field. Volcanoes, because they're ready to blow. Yeah, I want to call. When we get into the season, I might be referencing some volcanoes.
Love it.
Dylan
Cease is the.
He's the ultimate volcano.
Yeah.
Until proven otherwise. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I have. That's what I've brought in the past week.
Dylan Cease is our Mount St. Helens.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the Mount St. Helens of volcanoes.
For sure.
So, a guy I'm looking at, also a pitcher, coming out of the bullpen, though.
There's so many options for that.
Yeah. Evan Marshall. So, Evan Marshall, he's had a pretty interesting career. He had a good rookie year in 2014, then kind of fluttered around the league from 2015 to 2018. Had a good 2019, but his peripherals weren't great. And then in 2020, he fixed that. He cut his FIP by more than half. His FIP went from 4.30 to 2.04. And he more than doubled his strikeout to walk ratio. It went from 1.7 in 2019 to 4.3 in 2020. His expected ERA went from 4.06 to 2.36, and his expected WOBA against dropped 81 points. So his peripherals are looking amazing, along with his actual results, which were very good as well. Strikeout percentage increased 13.7% in terms of percentage points, not like, because if we're talking about how we increased 13.7%, if it was 2% over 1%, it wouldn't be 100% more. It would just be 1% more. That's what we're referencing. And his walk percentage dropped 4%. And he absolutely found gold in his curveball, Evan Marshall did. He increased his usage of it from 16.7% to 31.6%, and hitters slugged 0.56 off of that curveball. Slugged 0.56 off of it, not just hit 0.56 off of it. And he had a 58.5% swing and miss rate on that curveball, which was an improvement from when hitters slugged 409 off of it with a 37.8% swing and miss rate on his curveball in 2019. So Evan Marshall, extremely good reliever, extremely good curveball, and look for him to have a fantastic 162-game season in 2021. So now on to questions.
Yeah. What is more likely, Tim Anderson winning the batting title, or anyone on the White Sox, Abreu, Jimenez, Robert, Adam Eaton, winning the home run title?
Winning the home run title. All right,
Yeah.
This is a good. What's more likely? Abreu was, I think, 3 away from
Voit. I think it was 4 away.
Yeah.
I think Voit had 23 and Abreu had 19.
Okay, 4 away. Anderson's a free swinger. He had over 320 last year.
And he won the batting title in 2019. He had 335.
And I guess Jimenez is kind of a good candidate.
That's it. The way I wrote it was Eloy Jimenez winning the home run title, but I decided I just open it up to anybody on the team.
Yeah, I'll say Anderson more likely to win the batting title again.
Fair enough.
Just because he's such a free swinger.
And he's done it before.
And exactly, he's done it before. My question, so Luis Robert had a B-WAR of 4.9 on a 162-game pace last year and a 4.6 F-WAR on that 162-game pace. Will he accumulate a 5-win season on at least one of the websites in 2021?
I do think so. I don't think we really saw like a particular offensive or defensive stretch from Luis Robert during the season where it's like, okay, this guy is the man. Like from the jump, we all kind of knew that Kyle Lewis was going to be handed the Rookie of the Year award.
Yeah.
And Luis Robert went through a major slump through September. So I don't think we really saw a definitive offensive peak in Luis Robert in 2020. And if you can just avoid a very big slump like he had, I see no reason why he can't get to 5 wins.
Yeah.
And if he can get that offensive peak, which I think is very possible because he's an exit velocity machine.
Exactly. Yeah. Came into last season the number 3 prospect in
I
baseball.
think his first the first pitch he ever saw in his career was a batted ball with an exit velo of 105.8.
Yeah, he hits the ball hard.
I remember I discussed after the first weekend of baseball, I was like, Luis Robert has 3 hits. The lowest exit velocity on them is 102.7.
Yeah, as long as he makes contact, very good hitter. So yeah, he's definitely a guy to look out for because he was not one of the main White Sox people were talking about last year, but he could turn into that guy this year. So yeah, now on to the
Cleveland baseball team.
The Cleveland baseball team making a farewell tour with their current name in 2021.
Ideally, this is their last season, not being named the Naps again.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's been
over 100 years.
It'll have been a 108-year drought. The biggest.
Hey, we know a lot of things about baseball about 108-year droughts.
Yeah. Yeah,
especially involving the Indians.
Because it would be 2022 to 1914, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it's the biggest 108-year drought I could think of
in baseball.
With
the Cleveland franchise being involved in the ending of it.
Exactly. So yeah, we're hoping the Naps are coming in 2022. They are coming off of a 35-25 season. They lost Francisco Lindor, Carlos Carrasco, Brad Hand, and Carlos Santana. They added Andres Jimenez, Ahmed Rosario, and Eddie Rosario. A couple of Rosarios there.
So the Angels added both the Iglesiases, and the baseball team added both the Rosarios.
That's correct. So what player are you looking at?
So my baseball team player is Bobby Bradley. This is a prospect who has been in the minors for quite a while. He's going into, I believe, his age 26 season, and he's expected to break the 26-man roster out of camp, and I really hope he does. On MLB.com, he's projected to be the starting first baseman, and he has a .504 slugging percentage in the minors with a .250 ISO in 2,756 plate appearances. He's going to his age 25 season. I'm sorry, not 26. This team is kind of in a weird position where no one's really sure what their goals are. But Bobby Bradley is a guy who I expect to come up and make an impact this season.
What position was he? First baseman?
Yeah. Carlos Santana's gone. Insert Bobby Bradley.
Yeah. There we go. A guy I'm looking at. I kind of wanted to address him because he's a guy that really proved me wrong last year. I remember when we were talking about predictions, I had the Indians in third in the AL Central with the White Sox and Twins above them, and I was saying their starting pitching depth is not the same. I don't really trust Zach Plesac to be what he was last year. I was not impressed with his peripherals, but he proved me wrong last year. He put up a 2
He had one big mistake last year.
He had one big
he had one bad outing, and it wasn't on the baseball field.
Yeah, he kept it off the field, but yeah, he had a pretty bad outing, and really, we really mean the term outing here.
Yeah.
Not yeah. It was a bad outing, and he proved me wrong last year. Put up a 2.28 ERA, 3.39 FIP, 201 ERA plus, meaning he was 101% better than the average pitcher, and a 3.38 expected ERA in 55 1/3 innings pitched. His strikeout percentage increased by 8.9%, and his walk percentage was brought down by 5.5%. He brought down his expected ERA by over 2 runs, and he brought down his expected WOBA against by 79 points. He increased his whiff rate from 21.7% to 29.8%, pretty much from 20 to 30, if you want to round down and up. And hitters went from slugging 382 off his slider in 2019 to slugging 103 off of it in 2020, and he struck out 26 batters off of the slider in 2020 as opposed to only 15 in 2019, and that was a full season and he still struck out 11 more batters off of his slider. So that's Zach Plesac, a very valuable asset in that rotation. Should expect a full season out of him, unlike last year, for whatever reason. So now on to our questions for Cleveland.
So the baseball team lost Carlos Carrasco, like you mentioned, but they have a reputation of being a pitching factory where they could just develop starting pitcher after starting pitcher after starting pitcher that goes out and performs. Who do you see as being next in line?
Would you consider McKenzie as waiting in line?
I mean, he hasn't played a full season yet, so I'll count it.
Yeah, because
there's one particular name I was hoping you'd address.
What would be that guy? Because I'm probably just blanking on him.
He was traded from the Padres.
Cal Quantrill?
Close.
Traded from the
Logan Allen.
Oh, Logan Allen. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wrong
No,
Padres
I'll
trade.
I'll accept McKenzie though. That's a fair point because he hasn't pitched a full season yet. I mean, if he pitched the same amount of innings in 2019, you're still he's still by technicality a rookie. So I'll count Tristan McKenzie if that's what you want to go with.
I would. I expect more out of McKenzie than I do Logan Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he looks very good out there. I think he had like over 10 strikeouts per 9, low walk rate too, which is great. I would expect McKenzie to be that guy. My question is about the star of or I guess one of the stars of Cleveland right now. Will Shane Bieber have over or under 299.5 strikeouts in 2021? Tough to get there, but
that is
there's
a
guy.
tough question.
Yeah.
Is Tito going to be taken over? Or is he still going to be manager at the start of the season? Because I know he was having health issues and he was absent for parts, if not most, of 2020. Because I do think manager matters.
Yeah, it is. That's a good point. Because would Francona be letting him go more or less?
I think Francona would be letting him go more.
Yeah.
Because if they have a sitting manager that's not Francona, like the front office and the analytics department is probably going to be taking over, and I think that leads to less innings pitched for Shane Bieber.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think if Terry Francona is managing beyond the month of April, so like starting in May, yes. If not, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. All
it's
right.
like a Paul Goldschmidt question.
Paul Goldschmidt. The Goldschmidt decider.
Yeah.
That we're wondering if he's going to have a 300 strikeout season. He was way on pace last year. He might be able to do it this year. So now, on to the American League Central
team.
champions, the 10th out of 10 teams we're talking about this week. They are coming off a year where they went 36-24. They lost Eddie Rosario, Trevor May, Rich Hill, and Marwin Gonzalez and Matt Whistler, who was that
was very valuable for them.
A very valuable reliever who you pointed out earlier in the offseason who
went to the Giants.
Kind of a mistake on the Twins' end. And also Sergio Romo as well.
That doesn't really count.
And Jake Odorizzi and Tyler Clippard are both still in free agency.
No, Tyler Clippard signed, I thought. He signed with the Diamondbacks.
He did?
Yeah.
Because when I went to his baseball reference page, there was
It doesn't update for a couple of days, but he signed with the Diamondbacks.
Okay, so they also lost Tyler Clippard, and Odorizzi's still on the trade market. The Twins added Andrelton Simmons, Alex Colomé, Matt Shoemaker, Jay Happ,
and they re-signed Nelson Cruz.
They re-signed Nelson Cruz, and they also added Hansel Robles.
Yeah.
So they're keeping Cruz around. So what player are you looking at with the Twin City baseball team?
Get the how about that out.
All right, here we go.
Luis Arias for the Twins. He is the only player post-integration, that is since 1947, with a minimum of 250 plate appearances, which is not that much. He is almost 500, so that's double that. With a 330 average and a sub 10 sub 10% strikeout rate before their age 24 season.
How about that?
So just to review, Luis Arias, only player post-integration with a .330 batting average and a sub 10% strikeout percentage before their age 24 season, minimum 250 plate appearances.
Yeah.
That is my guy to watch.
So yeah, he's a very good bat to ball skills. In conclusion, from Luis Arias, he's like their third baseman.
Second baseman.
Second baseman.
Yeah.
My player to watch, my player to watch, I think he's a repeat. From my end, it's just a matter of if he's healthy or not. Byron Buxton. Since 2019,
I thought about him because of his slash line last year.
Well, since 2019, he has an 833 OPS, 117 OPS plus, and 113 weighted runs created plus in only 126 games. And since 2019 also, he ranks 14th among all fielders in defensive wins above replacement. And since 2019 as well, he has the highest defensive wins above replacement among players with less than 150 games played. So it's mostly a matter of him staying on the field. He's already a Platinum Glove winner, meaning he was the best fielder. He was the best fielder in baseball in 2017, and he's shown that he can be good offensively as well. But he's just had trouble staying on the field. So, if he stays on the field, very valuable. But you're not very valuable when you're not playing. So on to some questions. All right, do we have another how about that?
Oh, yeah, we do. We absolutely do. Byron Buxton's 2020 season was the only season in baseball history to have at least 52 plate appearances, an OBP below 270, and an OPS plus above 120.
How about that?
Yeah, he had one of my favorite slash lines in the league last year, 254, 267, 577, 844. He walked twice.
Yeah, he did not take kindly to the free pass, but he hit a ton of homers.
And I mentioned 52 plate appearances being the minimum. He had 135, so that's not cherry picking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's interesting. Very good. He's a good power bat, great offensive player. Yeah, he's like a poor man's Andrew Jones.
Yeah.
Pretty much, as of now.
Or even like a Torrey Hunter.
Yeah, Torrey Hunter.
To a degree.
Yeah, sort of. So now on to questions. I'll start off with my question.
All right, go ahead.
So, who will have the better season, Kenta Maeda or Jose Barrios?
Kenta Maeda. I think Kenta Maeda showed who he really is last year. I mean, I don't think it's going to be the same degree of success just because of the larger sample size, but I mean, we're talking about a guy that finished a runner-up in the Cy Young.
Mm-hmm.
And he lost to one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen just by sample size.
Yeah.
So I think Kenta Maeda is going to have the better season.
Yeah, and Barrios is like kind of the consistent guy.
Mm-hmm.
Maeda just like came out, and he finally has an established role.
Yes,
he never really had that.
He was kind of flipped back and forth in LA, and if you remember, he had a really good first month of his career too. In LA.
Yeah, when was
2016.
that? 2016.
He had like a 1 ERA in the first month of the season.
Yeah, that it does help that he has a defined role now, but
for sure.
But yeah, and your Twins question.
So over the last 2 seasons, Nelson Cruz has produced at least 160 OPS plus. He is now in a new decade of his life, his age 40 season. Can he sustain a 160 OPS plus in 2021?
Whew. Yeah, he's, what did you say, 42 season now?
40.
41?
40.
He's 40 now.
Yes.
I thought he was 40 last year.
I'm pretty sure he is 40 now.
Well, oh yeah, his birthday is July 1st.
Yep. So he's going into his age 40 season.
He's going into his
It's literally on the deadline.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, he's going into his age 40 season. 160 OPS
Actually,
plus.
so a little teaser for next division previews episode. I'm going to be previewing a player with another interesting birthday because I already did my previews for next week thinking that they were supposed to be. I thought this week we were doing the NL West, but I was wrong.
Yeah. What can you do?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say he gets under 160 OPS plus.
Okay.
It's just hard to do for
It's
that
so
long.
hard to do.
And he had
even if he was like 29.
Yeah, 169 last year, 168 the year before. Like, I don't know, he'll still have a fantastic season.
Yeah, if 150 is still really good.
Yeah, it's elite.
That's at least a 900.
That's
Probably a 950.
That's top 8 in the league. That's what a 150 OPS plus gets you. But yeah, so that is our full preview of both AL West and AL Central. Talked about 10, or you talked about 11 players to look for. I talked about 10. Gave each other some questions, and yeah, very good full episode of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you want to follow us on social media, go and follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio. And we hope you enjoyed this preview episode for the 2021 season, and we hope to see you on Thursday, where we're going to be talking about the 1998 San Diego Padres. See you then.